Welcome guys, my portfolio has nearly doubled in value overnight, going up by £14,600. I would love to say this is due to my amazing feats as an investor, but the reality is that I transferred over my cash held in my cash ISA in another account from a previous tax year in 2024. This has now been transferred over to my stocks and shares ISA held on Trading 212. I'll be going over my plans for this money now held in my portfolio, my buys that I've already made because I'm a weak man that just couldn't resist, and my future plans on how to grow this portfolio even quicker in the future. And if you guys want to follow along to see how I get on with growing this portfolio, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel to not miss out on anything. So without wasting your time, I invested £14,000 all the way back in May 2023 into a fixed rate cash ISA with Santander. This was the first time I had this much cash on hand after buying my house the year before, and I've always been a big saver, but never thought about interest rates and their impact on my money. So when I transferred the money over, I was receiving around a 2% interest rate from a normal current account. This was put up to about 4.3% interest for a year when it went into the ISA. And of course, I could not touch it for that year. Now we fast forward to June the 1st, 2024, and the ISA has matured, giving me just over £600 in interest. Of course, I started investing the same year that I invested in the cash ISA and have beat the return since then by quite a bit, with the market up a hell of a lot more than 4.2% in the same time frame. So I decided to hold the cash position all in one place, my stocks and shares ISA held on Trading 212. This takes us to an overall value for the portfolio to over £34,000, which is huge considering my last full portfolio update had my value sitting at just over £18,000. Now I must say the Trading 212 process of transferring over a portfolio held in another ISA, like I did with Santander, was actually very easy and efficient. It was on the app itself, simply using the Transfer Portfolio tab, filling out the details of the cash ISA, and it took a little over 2 days to complete, which is massive considering it can take up to 15 days. Additionally, it doesn't count towards my allowance for the year, which is still remaining at £7,466 that I can still add before April 2025. So we currently have an account value that sits over £34,000, sitting currently at £34,198. And the portfolio itself is currently held around about £24,919. And we have a cash amount that we're just holding in cash and cash equivalents on Trading 212, about £9,277. Now, obviously, that's a lot less than the £14,600 we transferred over. So we've spent around about just over £5,000 worth of that money that we got through that cash ISA transfer. And I'll be going through and exploring my buys with you guys and talking about the reasons why. But just talking about this proportionality of cash and cash investments. Now, obviously, we sit over 25% of my total account value. Currently sits at about 27% of the overall value of the account. And I'd like to see it sit around the 25% mark moving forward in just held cash in this account. That's the main reason for that, is because I want to make sure that if there's ever a downturn in any of my stocks that I think is a great buying opportunity, a bit similar to Salesforce quite recently, I want to be able to apply that money in the best possible way and not just apply it monthly when I can, if you like. So I want to move away from investing every month in stock straight away and want to hold a cash position in this account so that I can use that cash whenever I see an opportunity in the market. So my largest and biggest buying position after receiving that money was Amazon, which I think is trading fairly valued right now with its price to operating cash flow around 19, whilst its average in the past has sat around 25 or so. I'm mostly flat on this position, just up around over 2%. And generally speaking, I hold 36 shares at a value over £5,200. and have a cost per share basis around $179. So I added quite heavily to this one this month in the last week, around £2,100 to this position, which is nearly doubling the position overall. And I generally think it now takes me to a weighting that sits over 21% in the portfolio, with weighting of just the invested money and not the cash position, which I don't mind for Amazon. With the cash position, it's probably closer to about 15% of the overall sort of equity held in the account, and I don't mind that for Amazon, and I think it will go up as this share price sort of appreciates a little bit. And then we get on to my second largest holding and my next list of buys, which is of course Salesforce, which I think is still undervalued despite recovering in the more recent week. So I bought around 3.7 shares, which was around £680 worth last week, bringing the overall investment up to 21 shares valued at over £4,000. Down by around 4.3% with a cost per share of around $251, which is awesome as I originally bought this one around the 270s mark. So I've already tried to bring it down lately with this dip after their earnings, and its weighting is now just over 16% of the invested part of the portfolio. But I do expect that to change as the share price recovers, which it has been doing in the last week or so. So we'll have to see with that one. And finally, we get on to my newest position, and that's Mercado Libre. Now, I included this one in my video of 3 unknown monopoly stocks more recently, and it's led me to keep quite a bit of an eye on it. Then they released their Q1 earnings, and I thought it was very impressive to say the least. I saw diluted EPS was $6.78 per share compared to an expected $5.95 per share. And revenue was up 35% year over year to $4.33 billion, beating by around $460 million in analyst estimates. Now, I have talked about this one before, but it's not just the Amazon of South America. It has a massive, impressive, growing fintech business in that part of the world, and it, along with other fintech companies, are actually beating out the large banks in Brazil and disrupting financial services in that region. So their cash flow from operations is skyrocketing as well, just like Amazon, and they have now around about $5.8 billion, up from a CAGR of around 70% over the past 5 years, which is just stunning really when you think about the amount of cash flow that they're now producing. And this has resulted in the free cash flow yield of this stock sitting over 6%, which is actually really appealing when you consider when I've bought some of my other stocks. And that gives the average yield of this cash flow yield in the past has sat closer to 4%. So I think it's slightly undervalued now. I don't see much downside for this stock unless we see some bad news. So I opened a position in them. And I bought 2 shares at a value over £2,500 with a cost per share basis sitting at around $1,617 per share, which brings this one's allocation as part of my portfolio to just over 10% in my invested positions. So all told, I've spent around £5,000 of the cash from the transfer of around £14,600 from Santander, and have saved the remainder of it for any stocks that go on any dips that I now currently hold. I don't really want more than 10 stocks in my portfolio, and I'm now sitting at 9. So it's still within my range to have more. I would just prefer to not add more and actually add to the positions that I currently have. Obviously, as Peter Lynch talks about, it's better to invest in the stocks you already own than the other stocks that you may want to buy. And my plans for the future is to hold a significant cash position on hand in this portfolio at all times. So I want to be breaking out of that investing in stocks each month just when it's convenient to me, but may not be convenient for the market. And I want to move towards holding a cash position that I regularly add to each month that I can then use to purchase stocks when and if they go on dips and buy at better prices than what I'm seeing each month when I have the available cash. But that's about it, guys. I'm really happy to see this amount of in my portfolio now. I'm over 30k, which is never where I thought I would be in the next 2 years when I first started investing. And obviously it's just pushing me forward to want to keep growing this portfolio and share it with you guys. And thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one.